You know how we always think about genes controlling stuff inside our bodies?
Right.
Well, get ready to have your mind blown because today we're going deep on how genes can actually impact the environment around us.
Hmm.
We're talking about the extended phenotype, and we've got some awesome research from experts like Michael Hansel to unpack.
Yeah, it's a total paradigm shift.
Like a whole new way of thinking about genes.
We're going to look at how creatures' genes actually influence the world outside their bodies.
It's like they're building a second skin.
Almost like creating a whole new toolkit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to kick things off,
Okay.
let's meet the caddisfly larvae.
Got
They
it.
may be small, but these underwater architects are creating some seriously mind-boggling structures.
Yeah, so imagine you're exploring a stream
Okay.
and you come across these tiny houses made of pebbles, twigs, even bits of shell.
Wow.
And these aren't just random piles, though.
Right.
These caddisfly larvae are carefully selecting, rotating, and even cementing these materials together.
They're like tiny underwater engineers. And here's what gets really interesting. They're not just following some pre-programmed instinct.
Right.
Hansel's experiment showed that if you disrupt parts of their carefully constructed cases,
Uh-huh.
they rebuild using the right materials for that spot.
Wow.
Just like they're following a blueprint.
Yeah, that's the hallmark of the extended phenotype. These structures aren't physically part of the larva, but they're shaped by its genes just as surely as its legs or antennae are.
Right.
This goes against how we normally think about genes, doesn't it?
It totally does.
Yeah.
And it begs the question, if a caddisfly's genes are influencing the construction of its house, could this apply to other creatures too?
You're catching on quickly.
Okay, good.
Think of something like a snail shell.
Okay.
It's built by the snail, but the shape, the size, the patterns
Mm-hmm.
are all influenced by its genes.
All right.
Bird nests, spider webs,
Yeah.
even beaver dams.
Wow.
They're all a product of this extended phenotype in action.
Okay, so now that we've got our heads around the basics,
Yeah.
let's crank things up a notch.
Oh,
I understand we're about to enter the world of mole crickets.
all right.
What makes this little diggers so special in the context of the extended phenotype?
Well, they're not just digging holes.
Right.
They're crafting some pretty impressive sound systems.
Really?
Some mole cricket species have evolved to use their burrows as megaphones.
Wow.
They carefully shape these burrows to channel and amplify their mating calls,
Huh.
attracting mates from incredibly far distances.
They're using their burrows as amplifiers.
Yeah,
It's like they've got built-in speakers.
exactly.
How far are we talking?
One species, Gorilla talpa
Okay.
creates these amazing double-horned burrows that can broadcast their calls over 600 meters.
Wow.
Imagine the advantage it gives them in terms of finding a mate.
That's mind-blowing.
Right.
But how do we know that these intricate burrow designs are truly driven by genes and not just learned behavior?
Oh, that's where it gets even more fascinating.
thinking
It's not that the genes are literally coding for build a megaphone burrow. It's more about a chain of influence.
Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me more about this chain of influence.
Genes influence the development of an animal's nervous system.
Right.
That nervous system shapes the animal's behavior.
Uh-huh.
And that behavior can then lead to the creation of something in the environment,
Okay.
like a perfectly shaped, sound-amplifying burrow.
Wow.
Natural selection acts at all these levels, favoring the genes that ultimately lead to greater survival and reproductive success.
So in this case, a mole cricket with genes that lead to a better megaphone burrow
Yeah,
is going to attract more mates, and those genes get passed on.
exactly.
Like their genes are reaching out into the world to improve their chances.
Precisely.
Wow.
And research backs this up.
Okay.
We've seen in cricket song studies that hybrid crickets,
Mm-hmm.
offspring of two different species,
Right.
will actually sing songs that blend elements of both parents' calls.
Interesting.
This shows a clear genetic component controlling this complex behavior.
So we're not just talking about physical traits like fur color or beak shape.
Right.
We're talking about genes that influence behavior.
Yeah.
And that behavior then creates something new in the environment.
Exactly.
That's a game changer for how we think about evolution, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And it makes you wonder,
Oh,
what other surprising examples are out there?
right.
What about when genes reach out and influence the behavior of other individuals?
Wait, hold on. Genes influencing the behavior of other individuals?
Yeah.
That sounds almost impossible. How could that even work?
Well, remember, if a trait provides an advantage,
Yeah,
even if it's this extended phenotype,
right.
the genes behind it are more likely to spread.
Okay.
Sometimes that advantage involves getting other organisms to do your bidding, so to speak.
Okay, that sounds crazy, but I'm hooked. Give me an example.
Let's take bird songs again.
Okay.
Those beautiful melodies are more than just noise.
Right.
They can trigger specific hormonal changes in female birds, making them more receptive to mating. So in a sense, a male bird's genes are influencing the physiology of a female.
It's like a form of genetic manipulation. His genes are impacting another individual's body through his song.
Exactly. And think of bowerbirds.
Okay.
The males build these elaborate structures decorated with colorful objects to attract mates.
Right.
Their genes are essentially driving them to manipulate female mate choice by creating this visually stunning environment.
It seems like we've gone from tiny houses to sound systems to elaborate art installations.
We have.
All driven by this idea of the extended phenotype.
And we're just getting started. Think about this. What if the extended phenotype isn't limited to just like individual creations?
Okay.
What if it scales up to entire groups?
Groups, you mean like animals working together to build something?
Exactly. Imagine a colony of ants or termites.
Okay.
Their nests and mounds are like intricate cities,
Wow.
carefully engineered to regulate temperature, humidity, even gas exchange.
That's incredible.
These are mind-blowing structures,
Yes.
built by thousands or even millions of individuals, all guided by a shared genetic blueprint.
It's like their genes are working together to create something far greater than any single individual could achieve.
Precisely. And these collective extended phenotypes can have a profound impact on the environment.
Like what?
Think of those massive termite mounds in Africa,
Oh, yeah.
towering taller than a human.
Wow.
They're not just homes.
Right.
They're ecological engineers shaping the landscape around them.
It's incredible to think that these tiny creatures, through their collective efforts, can have such a large-scale impact.
Yeah.
It makes our human cities seem almost insignificant in comparison.
Speaking of comparisons, I'm curious what stands out to you as the most surprising example of the extended phenotype we've covered so far.
Honestly, it's a tough choice. The caddisfly larvae and their tiny, meticulously crafted houses were definitely an eye-opener.
Yeah.
But those mole crickets using their burrows as megaphones,
Yeah.
that's just plain awesome.
I agree. It's a fantastic illustration of how evolution can lead to such unexpected and ingenious solutions.
Right.
It highlights the fact that these extended phenotypes aren't just about building physical structures. They can encompass sound, scent, even light.
That's right. We talked about how male birds use their songs to influence female hormones, and bowerbirds create elaborate visual displays to attract mates.
Right.
It's all about manipulating the environment and even other individuals to achieve a genetic advantage.
And that brings up another fascinating question.
What's that?
How much variation can we see in these extended phenotypes within a single species? Do all caddisflies, for example, build their cases in exactly the same way?
That's a good question. It would seem that there'd have to be some room for individual expression, right?
You're absolutely right. Just like any trait, there can be subtle variations in extended phenotypes within a species.
Okay.
This variation can be influenced by environmental factors, like the availability of certain building materials. Or it could be due to genetic differences within the population.
So it's like having a basic blueprint,
Yeah.
but then being able to customize it based on your own needs and the resources available to you.
Right.
It's adaptation in action.
Exactly. And this variation is what makes evolution so powerful. Natural selection can act on these subtle differences,
Yeah.
favoring individuals whose extended phenotypes give them an edge in their particular environment.
It's all about finding what works best in a given context, survival of the fittest phenotype, as they say.
Right.
But this all makes me wonder how scientists actually study these extended phenotypes in the wild. It seems like it would be tricky to tease apart the effects of genes, behavior, and the environment.
It definitely presents some challenges.
Right.
But researchers have developed clever techniques to tackle this complexity.
Okay.
One approach is to compare closely related species that live in different environments.
Okay.
By observing how their extended phenotypes differ, we can gain insights into how those differences might be driven by adaptation to their specific surroundings.
So if we find two species of caddisfly, one that builds its case out of stones and another that uses twigs,
Okay.
we might infer that those differences are linked to the types of materials available in their respective habitats.
Precisely. Another approach is to conduct experiments where you manipulate either the environment or the organism's behavior.
Oh, interesting.
For example, researchers might provide caddisfly larvae with different types of building materials to see how it influences their case construction. Or they could play recordings of different bird songs to female birds to see how it affects their hormone levels or mating behavior.
It's like running a controlled experiment to isolate the variables and see how they impact the extended phenotype.
Exactly.
Fascinating stuff. But I imagine there are still many unanswered questions in this field.
Oh, yeah.
What are some of the biggest challenges or mysteries that researchers are still grappling with?
One of the biggest challenges is simply defining what qualifies as an extended phenotype. It's not always clear-cut.
Right.
And there could be debate about where to draw the line between an organism's body and its influence on the world around it.
So where do we draw that line? Is a spiderweb an extended phenotype? What about the trail of scent a moth leaves behind?
Those are exactly the kinds of questions that spark debate and drive further research. Another challenge lies in understanding the specific genetic mechanisms that underpin extended phenotypes.
Okay.
We know genes play a role,
Right.
but the pathways and networks involved can be incredibly complex and difficult to unravel.
It's like we're trying to decode a secret language.
Yeah.
Only we're just beginning to understand the alphabet.
That's a great way to put it. And as we delve deeper into this field, we're bound to uncover even more fascinating questions and insights.
It's amazing to think about all these different ways genes can shape the world beyond an organism's body. It really expands our understanding of evolution.
It certainly does, and it challenges us to rethink our definition of self, when genes can have such a far-reaching influence.
Right.
But, there's one area we haven't touched on yet that takes this concept of the extended phenotype to a whole new level.
Oh, really? What's that?
Parasitism.
Oh, parasites.
Yeah.
They're experts at manipulating your hosts, aren't they?
Exactly. They don't just live inside their hosts.
Right.
They often hijack their behavior and physiology, all for the benefit of the parasite's own genes.
So you're saying that a parasite's genes are essentially extending their influence into the host's body and actions? It's like a puppeteer controlling a marionette.
A perfect analogy. Think about those parasitic wasps that lay their eggs inside caterpillars.
Right.
The wasp larvae not only feed on the caterpillar, but they also release chemicals that make the caterpillar protect the wasp pupa.
Wait, the caterpillar defends the very creatures that are eating it alive?
Yeah.
That's both incredible and a little disturbing.
It's a prime example of how the extended phenotype can blur the lines between different organisms.
Right.
And it gets even more mind-boggling when you consider parasites that can manipulate their hosts' brains.
Really?
Influencing their decisions to help the parasite spread.
Mind control. You're not going to tell me about zombies, are you?
Well, there's a species of parasitic fungus that infects ants.
Oh, yeah.
And turns them into something very similar to zombies.
Wow.
The fungus grows inside the ant, taking over its nervous system and forcing it to climb up vegetation and clamp onto a leaf where it dies.
That's straight out of a horror movie.
I know, it's pretty crazy.
Why would the fungus do that? It doesn't seem like a very good survival strategy to kill your host.
Well, it's all about spreading the fungus's genes.
Okay.
You see, the ant's elevated position and death grip create the perfect platform for the fungus to release its spores and infect new ants.
Wow.
It's gruesome, but effective.
So even in death, the ant is serving the extended phenotype of the fungus. It's a stark reminder that evolution isn't always about cooperation.
Right.
Sometimes it's a ruthless battle for survival.
That's right. But even parasitism,
Yeah.
as unsettling as it can be, plays a role in shaping biodiversity and driving evolutionary innovation. The constant arms race between parasites and their hosts leads to new defenses and counter-defenses, pushing the boundaries of adaptation.
It's a constant game of one-upmanship with genes driving the action on both sides. But it makes me wonder, could we ever harness this power of parasites for our own benefit?
That's an interesting thought.
Like how?
Imagine being able to control pests or disease-carrying insects using targeted fungal infections.
Wow.
It might sound like science fiction, but who knows what the future holds? The study of extended phenotypes has opened up a whole new world of possibilities.
Absolutely. From caddisfly architects to mind-controlling fungi, today's deep dive has shown us that the influence of genes extends far beyond what we traditionally imagine.
Right.
It's a whole new way of looking at the interconnectedness of life.
It really makes you appreciate the intricate web of interactions that shape the natural world.
Yeah.
And it raises profound questions about the boundaries between organisms and the role of genes in shaping not just individuals, but entire ecosystems.
So the next time you see a spider web glistening in the morning dew or hear a bird singing its heart out, take a moment to consider the unseen forces at play.
Right.
The genes reaching out from within to shape the world around them.
Who knows? Maybe you'll even start to see your own actions and creations as part of this grand tapestry of extended phenotypes. After all, we humans are constantly shaping our environment and influencing the behavior of others. What kind of legacy will our genes leave behind?
That's something to ponder. We've covered a lot of ground today, from tiny caddisfly cases to the potential for human-engineered extended phenotypes. The extended phenotype is a powerful concept that challenges our assumptions and opens up a whole new universe of exploration.
Thanks for joining us on this